I want to be. The birds are singing, it is soft.
Abraham.
I just feel that we have to be recognized as a people. I just want you to know, I'm going to give this award, but black people will not ride the caboose of society, and we will not bring up the rear anymore. And I want you to recognize it.
Eddie Murphy exposed Hollywood's 9 worst racist stars after his explosive 1988 Oscars speech nearly destroyed his career. From John Wayne, who openly declared his belief in white supremacy.
Your father quoted in Playboy magazine, if we can put that on the screen, as saying the following: Americans will be completely fed up with these films. He's then asked, well, what do you consider? He talks about Midnight Cowboy, relatives to blacks, people of color, but we can't all of a sudden get down on our knees and turn everything over to the leadership of the blacks. I believe in white supremacy until the blacks are educated to a point of responsibility.
To Walter Brennan, who celebrated Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination by dancing in his living room.
I am a grandfather, though. I was born in Massachusetts. And I do want my grandchildren to grow up in peace, security, and prosperity.
This is how Murphy's fight against racism revealed the shocking truth about Hollywood's golden age bigots. In 1988, Eddie Murphy walked onto the Academy Awards stage to present Best Picture, knowing that what he was about to say could end his career. At the height of his fame, with blockbuster hits like Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America behind him, Murphy made a choice that would haunt him for decades. He decided to tell the truth about Hollywood's racist problem. When asked to present at the ceremony, Murphy's first instinct was to decline because the Academy hadn't recognized black people in motion pictures.
At first, when they came to me and they said they wanted me to present the award for Best Picture, my management came and they told me that the Academy had picked me, and my first reaction was to say, no, I ain't going.
At the time, only 3 black actors had won Oscars in the Academy's 60-year history: Hattie McDaniel, Sidney Poitier, and Louis Gossett Jr. Backstage, Robin Williams tried to talk Murphy out of his planned speech, asking why he would go there and questioning whether it would be funny rather than just controversial. But Murphy was determined to use his platform to expose what he saw as systemic racism in the industry. Taking the stage, Murphy delivered a speech that would define his relationship with Hollywood for the rest of his career.
I just feel that we have to be recognized as a people. I just want you to know, I'm going to give this award, but black people will not ride the caboose of society, and we will not bring up the rear anymore. And I want you to recognize it.
The response was immediate and devastating. The next day, it was as if Murphy's speech had never happened. There were no pictures of him at the Oscars, no coverage of his remarks, and no mention of his powerful statement. The blacklisting was real and lasting. Despite his continued success, Murphy wouldn't receive his first Oscar nomination until 2007, nearly 20 years later, for Dreamgirls. His 1988 speech became a catalyst for exposing Hollywood's racist legacy. Murphy's stand that night revealed the systematic racism that had plagued Hollywood since its inception, embodied by stars like John Wayne, who openly declared his white supremacist beliefs. John Wayne stands as perhaps the most shocking example of Hollywood racism because he was so open about his beliefs. In a notorious 1971 Playboy interview that resurfaced and went viral decades later, Wayne didn't just hint at racist attitudes. He proudly declared his support for white supremacy and defended the genocide of Native Americans. Wayne expressed his belief in white supremacy until black people were educated to a point of responsibility, stating he didn't believe in giving authority to what he considered irresponsible people.
Your father quoted in Playboy magazine, if we can put that on the screen, as saying the following: Americans will be completely fed up with these films. He's then asked, well, what do you consider? He talks about Midnight Cowboy, relatives to blacks, people of color, but we can't all of a sudden get down on our knees and turn everything over to the leadership of the blacks. I believe in white supremacy until the blacks are educated to a point of responsibility.
The casual nature of his racism was perhaps more disturbing than the words themselves. This wasn't a heated moment, but a calculated expression of his core beliefs. Wayne's racism extended far beyond Black Americans. When discussing Native Americans, he showed no remorse for centuries of genocide and land theft. He claimed America didn't do wrong taking the country from Native Americans, calling it a matter of survival.
I don't feel we did wrong in taking this great country away from them. If that's what you're asking, our so-called stealing of this country from them was just a matter of survival. There were great numbers of people who needed new land, and the Indians were selfishly trying to keep it for themselves.
What made Wayne's racism particularly damaging was his status as an American icon. For decades, he represented the idealized American cowboy, strong, moral, and heroic. Children across the country grew up watching Wayne's films, absorbing a worldview that positioned white men as natural leaders and everyone else as inferior. Wayne appeared in over 170 films and was one of the top box office draws for 3 decades. His movies shaped how Americans saw themselves and their history, consistently portraying white settlers as heroes and indigenous people as obstacles to progress.
Libby, if you get crossways of me and you'll think 1,000 of brick have fell.
The revelation of Wayne's explicit white supremacist views sparked nationwide controversy when they resurfaced, with calls to remove his name from Orange County Airport and USC removing his exhibit. Wayne's explicit racism was shocking, but Walter Brennan's reaction to Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination revealed an even more grotesque celebration of racial hatred. Walter Brennan's reaction revealed the depths of Hollywood racism in its most grotesque form. According to multiple reports, when Brennan learned of King's death in 1968, he didn't just approve, he celebrated by dancing in his living room. This wasn't quiet racism or subtle prejudice. It was the open celebration of a civil rights leader's murder by one of Hollywood's most successful character actors.
I'll never forget, later on that week, I got a long-distance telephone call from Snag Wirris, all the way from California.
Brennan had built his career playing folksy, harmless old-timers in films like The Westerner and Red River, winning 3 Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor.
That is right, Mr. Dunson. But might be old Cookie might not like grubbing the trip all.
But behind his grandfatherly screen persona lurked a man with far-right political views and deep racial hatred. His celebration of King's assassination demonstrated how Hollywood's veneer of respectability could mask the most extreme forms of bigotry. The fact that Brennan felt comfortable enough to openly celebrate King's death suggests he believed he was among like-minded people. This points to a broader culture within Hollywood, where racist attitudes were not just tolerated, but shared among industry professionals. Brennan's behavior wasn't an isolated incident. It was symptomatic of an industry where such views were commonplace.
I am a grandfather, though. I was born in Massachusetts. And I do want my grandchildren to grow up in peace, security, and prosperity.
Brennan's celebration of King's death was particularly heinous because of what King represented. The civil rights leader had dedicated his life to nonviolent resistance and achieving equality through peaceful means. His assassination was a national tragedy that devastated communities across America. For Brennan to celebrate such a moment revealed a level of racial hatred that went beyond political disagreement into pure malice. The timing of Brennan's celebration makes it even more disturbing. While the nation mourned and cities burned with riots, Brennan was dancing with joy in the privacy of his home, revealing the genuine hatred that lurked beneath Hollywood's golden age. While Brennan celebrated black suffering in private, Al Jolson built his entire career on the public mockery and dehumanization of black people through blackface entertainment. Al Jolson represents a different but equally damaging form of Hollywood racism, the systematic mocking and dehumanization of black people for entertainment. Jolson's blackface performances, most famously in The Jazz Singer, weren't just products of their time. They were deliberate choices that perpetuated racial stereotypes and reinforced white supremacist ideology for mass audiences worldwide.
Your love is real, near you I want to be. The birds are singing, it is soft.
The Jazz Singer is often celebrated as a groundbreaking film for introducing synchronized sound to cinema, but its cultural impact was far more complex and destructive. Jolson's blackface performance introduced millions of viewers to racist caricatures that portrayed black people as subhuman entertainers, existing solely for white amusement. The film's success established blackface as acceptable mainstream entertainment. Jolson's blackface was a complete transformation that exaggerated supposedly black characteristics to comic effect. His performances reinforced the idea that authentic black culture was inferior to white interpretations of it. When white audiences applauded Jolson's blackface performances, they were endorsing the belief that black people were better represented by white actors than by themselves. The popularity of Jolson's performances created a template for racist entertainment that persisted for decades. His success proved to Hollywood executives that audiences would pay to see black people mocked and degraded. This economic incentive encouraged the production of more blackface entertainment, creating a cycle that normalized racial mockery as legitimate show business.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will conclude this part of the entertainment with a brand new song sung here in Chicago for the first time on any stage.
The international success of the Jazz Singer spread Jolson's racist stereotypes globally, teaching audiences worldwide that American entertainment included the mockery of black people as a fundamental element. Jolson's legacy reveals how entertainment racism operated as both art and propaganda. His performances weren't just shows. They were cultural programming that taught audiences how to think about race and made mockery of black people seem natural and profitable. Jolson's blackface performances mocked black people directly, but David O. Selznick's production of Gone with the Wind created perhaps the most enduring piece of racist propaganda in Hollywood history. The film romanticized slavery and the antebellum South while portraying enslaved people as happy servants devoted to their white masters.
All we've got is cotton and slaves and...
Selznick's film wasn't just entertainment. It was historical revisionism that shaped how generations of Americans understood slavery and the Civil War. Gone with the Wind presented the Ku Klux Klan as heroic defenders of white womanhood and portrayed Reconstruction as a period of black corruption and white victimization. The film's massive success and critical acclaim, including multiple Academy Awards, gave these racist narratives cultural legitimacy and historical authority they didn't deserve. Selznick had essentially created a propaganda masterpiece that rewrote American history from a white supremacist perspective. The film's portrayal of slavery was particularly insidious because it presented enslaved people as content with their condition and loyal to their oppressors. Selznick's enslaved characters expressed gratitude for their treatment and showed no desire for freedom, creating a false narrative that slavery was a benevolent institution that benefited both races.
Why do I have to take a nap? I'm not tired.
Well brought up young ladies take naps at parties, and it's high time you start behaving yourself.
Selznick's decision to adapt Margaret Mitchell's novel wasn't accidental. He recognized the commercial potential of nostalgic racism. The producer understood that white audiences were hungry for entertainment that validated their beliefs about racial hierarchy and justified past and present discrimination. Gone with the Wind provided sophisticated rationalization for white supremacy disguised as epic romance. The technical excellence of Gone with the Wind made its racist message more powerful and persuasive. Selznick spared no expense in creating a visually stunning film that used cutting-edge cinematography and elaborate sets to sell its racist narrative. The film's artistic achievements made its propaganda more palatable and gave its historical distortions the weight of prestigious Hollywood production. Selznick's historical revisionism was complemented by Cecil B. DeMille's systematic promotion of racial stereotypes that extended beyond Black Americans to all non-white peoples. DeMille's films consistently portrayed Native Americans as savage obstacles to white progress and depicted Asians through degrading stereotypes that reinforced fears of foreign threats to American civilization. In films like The Plainsman and Union Pacific, DeMille presented Native Americans as one-dimensional villains whose only purpose was to threaten white settlers. His Native American characters lacked complexity, motivation, or humanity. They existed solely as savage forces of nature that white heroes had to overcome.
Go and find out now which way soldier go. Let's get it.
These portrayals weren't just entertainment choices. They were deliberate cultural programming that justified continued oppression of indigenous peoples. DeMille's treatment of Asian characters was equally destructive. His films portrayed Asians as either mysterious villains plotting against white society or subservient workers grateful for white leadership. These stereotypes fed into existing prejudices and helped justify exclusionary laws and discriminatory practices against Asian Americans during periods of intense anti-Asian sentiment. The director's approach to racial representation became a template that other filmmakers followed for decades. As one of Hollywood's most successful and respected directors, DeMille's racist portrayals weren't seen as problems to be solved, but as proven formulas for commercial success. DeMille's epic productions used spectacular visuals and elaborate staging to make his racist messages more compelling and memorable. The director understood that audiences would be more likely to accept and internalize stereotypes if they were presented within impressive cinematic experiences. His technical mastery served to legitimize and amplify his prejudiced worldview, spreading racial stereotypes globally and teaching worldwide audiences to view non-white groups through the lens of American prejudice. DeMille's epic films spread American racial prejudices globally, while Errol Flynn's adventure movies reinforced colonial attitudes and European dominance over non-white peoples. Flynn's documented racism was more personal but equally damaging given his status as a leading man and international star. Flynn's autobiography, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, revealed a man whose personal beliefs aligned with the racist characters he often portrayed on screen. His casual racism in private life reinforced the idea that such attitudes were normal and acceptable among Hollywood's elite performers. Flynn's swashbuckling heroes represented an idealized form of white masculinity that explicitly excluded non-white people from heroic roles. His characters conquered foreign lands, defeated non-white villains, and rescued white women from exotic dangers.
You want the girl?
Why not? And I'm willing to pay for what I want.
These narratives reinforced colonial attitudes and justified European dominance over non-white peoples during a period when colonial empires were beginning to face serious challenges. The actors' adventure films consistently portrayed non-white cultures as backward, threatening, or corrupt, requiring intervention by white heroes to restore order and civilization. Flynn's characters brought Western values and Christian morality to savage lands populated by inferior peoples who couldn't govern themselves effectively. Flynn's off-screen behavior matched his on-screen persona in troubling ways. Reports of Flynn's racist comments and attitudes toward non-white cast members and crew revealed how Hollywood's racist culture operated behind the scenes. Stars like Flynn weren't just acting racist on screen, they were living it in their daily professional lives. The international popularity of Flynn's films made him a global ambassador for American and European racial attitudes. His movies reached audiences across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, teaching viewers in colonized regions to see themselves through the eyes of their colonizers. Flynn's heroic characters provided models of white superiority that influenced how both white and non-white audiences understood racial hierarchies and colonial power structures. Flynn's racist swashbuckling appealed to adventure-seeking audiences. But Bing Crosby's wholesome blackface performances normalized racial mockery for middle-class American families. Holiday Inn featured Crosby and his co-stars in blackface performing in ways that mocked black culture and reinforced racial stereotypes. The film's popularity and continued broadcast on television meant that these racist images reached new generations of viewers long after their initial release. Crosby's participation gave blackface performances mainstream respectability that extended their cultural influence. Abraham. Crosby's willingness to participate in blackface performances revealed how pervasive racist entertainment was in Hollywood. Even performers who weren't known for political extremism found blackface acceptable and profitable. This widespread participation showed that Hollywood racism wasn't limited to obvious bigots. It was an industry-wide practice that implicated even seemingly moderate performers. The singer's enormous popularity made his racist performances particularly influential in shaping American attitudes toward race. Crosby's recordings and films reached millions of families across the country, making him one of the most trusted entertainers of his era. When such a beloved figure participated in racial mockery, it sent a powerful message that such behavior was socially acceptable. The technical quality of Crosby's performances made his racist content more polished and professional than crude minstrel shows, giving blackface entertainment a veneer of artistic respectability. His smooth vocal style and polished presentation disguised the underlying hatred and mockery, making racist entertainment seem sophisticated and acceptable to educated audiences while spreading these harmful portrayals internationally. Crosby's participation in blackface revealed how widespread Hollywood racism was, but Gary Cooper represented the most insidious form of Hollywood racism, the silent enabler who allowed and benefited from racist systems while maintaining plausible deniability about personal beliefs.
I sent a man up 5 years ago for murder. He was supposed to hang, but up north they commuted it to life.
While Cooper's racist comments weren't as well documented as Wayne's or Brennan's, his participation in and profit from Hollywood's exclusionary practices made him complicit in the industry's systematic oppression of non-white performers. Cooper's career spanned the most racist period in Hollywood history, yet he never spoke out against the industry's discriminatory practices. As one of the biggest stars of the 1930s and 1940s, Cooper had the influence and platform to challenge racist casting practices or demand better treatment for non-white performers. His silence wasn't neutrality, it was active participation in maintaining the racist status quo. The roles Cooper chose reinforced racial hierarchies and justified white supremacist narratives. His Western heroes consistently portrayed white settlers as civilizers bringing order to savage frontiers. His war films depicted America's enemies through racist stereotypes while celebrating white American heroism. Cooper's characters existed in a world where white men were natural leaders and everyone else was either absent or inferior. Cooper's documented contentious relationship with John Wayne suggests possible disagreement with Wayne's explicitly racist views, but Cooper never publicly challenged those views or used his influence to promote racial equality. His silence allowed Wayne's racism to flourish unchallenged within Hollywood's social and professional circles. The absence of explicit racist statements from Cooper doesn't absolve him of responsibility for participating in and benefiting from racist systems. His success depended on Hollywood's exclusionary practices that denied opportunities to non-white performers. Cooper's star power could have been used to demand more inclusive casting, but he chose to protect his own interests instead. Cooper's silent enabling was damaging, but James Stewart's case was even more complex because he used his moral authority to legitimize racist exclusion while appearing decent and principled. Stewart's most famous films consistently excluded non-white characters from meaningful roles or portrayed them through limiting stereotypes. It's a Wonderful Life, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and Vertigo, All Present Worlds, where white people are the only ones capable of moral agency or complex emotions. These films were cultural statements about who deserved to be seen as fully human and morally significant.
Well, I can't work around here. Oh, you're following me. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
The actor's portrayal of American values became deeply influential in shaping how audiences understood morality and citizenship. Stewart's characters represented idealized Americans who fought for justice, defended democracy, and upheld ethical principles. But these moral crusades never extended to challenging racial injustice, suggesting that civil rights wasn't part of legitimate American morality. Stewart's collaboration with director Frank Capra produced films that celebrated American democracy while completely ignoring the exclusion of Black Americans from democratic participation. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington portrayed the Senate as a noble institution corrupted by special interests, but never acknowledged that the same institution systematically excluded Black representatives and supported segregation laws. The international influence of Stewart's films made his exclusionary vision of American morality globally influential. Foreign audiences learned about American values through Stewart's characters, absorbing the idea that moral Americans were naturally white and that racial issues weren't part of legitimate ethical concern. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.